Two things happened while I was watching Sound of Metal. One, I almost cried. And two, it made me want to go buy a new pair of earbuds because, guys, I'm not going to any concert without earplugs for the rest of my life. Nope. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm talking about Sound of Metal that's debuting exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. It's a movie that's directed by Darius, Marder, and stars a lot of awesome actors, including Riz Ahmed, who, yes, is from Rogue One, Olivia, Cooke, and Raci, who is a part of the deaf community. He's deaf himself, he's a musician, a veteran, and let me tell you, his performance is special. Now, before I get into what worked in this movie and maybe what didn't work in this film, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I talk about movies and TV, I do reviews, reactions, and we talk a ton of news. So if you want to see much more of this kind of content, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on that bell so you don't miss out on anything new. I just dropped my review for the Animaniacs reboot on Hulu. You can find that at the top of the screen. And I also dropped a reaction for The Legend of Korra Season 4, Episode 7. Guys, I can't wait for more Legend of Korra this week. Apparently, Episode 8 is going to be wild. Now, before we get into much more of that, guys, get loud in the comments and let me know what you thought of this movie. Is it something you enjoyed? Is it not? I want to hear all about it, guys, and we'll have a nice little conversation down below. Alrighty, y'all, well, let's get into the movie itself. If you don't know much about the film, let's break it down a little bit. Sound of Metal is a story about a heavy metal drummer in his life after he discovers that he has lost his hearing. Now, this is a movie that, of course, sounds simple when I just read the summary like that, but let me be honest with you guys, there are so many layers in this film, and everything is just so darn emotional, and the reason why all of this is conveyed perfectly to me, the viewer, is because of the wonderful acting in this movie. Riz Ahmed and Olivia Cooke delivered two excellent performances, and honestly, guys, they are some of my favorite performances of the year. Riz Ahmed plays Ruben Stone, a drummer and the boyfriend of Lou, played by Olivia Cooke. Both of them are just electric together. Even individually, they're great, but the thing is, both of them convinced me that they weren't just Riz Ahmed and Olivia Cooke. Man, they disappeared in these roles. This is by far the best performance that I've seen from Riz Ahmed, who balances someone who is struggling with adapting to being deaf and is struggling to fight relapse. His character is very complex, and guys, there's a lot of moments in this movie that if you don't prepare yourself for it, you might think, oh, I thought I was just watching a movie about a musician. No, this is a delicate story, and Riz Ahmed handles it with care. He does a great deal of acting with his eyes, but there's never one scene that I didn't believe him. As for Olivia Cooke, man, I said it a little while ago, but she just disappears as Lou. It's wonderful to see. I think this is gonna be, like I said, one of the stronger performances of the year once 2020 ends, but Olivia Cooke is just on fire in this movie. The further into the movie we go, the more we learn about Lou, and I learn to love her more and more. She's very protective over Ruben, but the crucial part of her character is she understands when to let Ruben go, not only to save her life, but also to save his. There's a heartbreaking moment that they share in the first act that absolutely crushed me, and that was one of the many scenes that brought me close to tears. But guys, both of them were just able to carry their own weight, and when they're together on screen, it just took me out of my current situation, and I almost felt like I was a part of their story too. Now, when it comes to the story itself, it's just so darn intriguing, and I'm really glad that they allowed us, the audience, to see it from Ruben's point of view. I haven't seen many movies this year with a unique concept quite like this, and there's an interesting note about the film itself. The Hollywood Reporter wrote that this band is modeled after a real one whose members acted in an unreleased movie by director Derek Confrance, who was given a story credit for Sound of Metal. He also directed The Light Between Oceans, so this guy clearly has a knack for very sad stories. The pacing here was also really good. We don't start with Ruben's life story, rather they take time to really just develop his character, and sometimes, yes, they do give us his background and Lou's background in dialogue, and I'm willing to excuse that here, probably because I just bought into both of them telling their own stories. Yes, I usually don't like expository dialogue, but here it kind of worked. Now, outside of the writing and the acting, guys, I love the way that this movie plays with sound. This film pulls off a sort of technical achievement that really should and it could be recognized at the Oscars. There's no reason why this movie won't win an Academy Award, honestly, for sound design, for sound mixing. I don't even remember if they combined both of those categories, but anyway, this film really is just a masterclass in playing with the sounds that we hear. And since we are seeing the movie through Ruben's eyes, when the film decides to create muffled voices and make things silent, it did take me a minute to adjust, but that's the idea. As we're adjusting to hearing the movie in a different way, Ruben is also adjusting to hearing life in a new way, or unfortunately not hearing at all. I also love that they added in subtitles on top of the movie itself. It just shows that this movie really is self-aware of not only the audience, but also the range that this movie could have. It's going to touch so many different moviegoers, and its target audience is one that might need subtitles, yes, so why not have them? And I'm so glad that Sound of Metal decided to add that. It is a nice touch, and honestly, it just shows that the movie cares. And this might be a given, but I really love the way that Sound of Metal places an emphasis on music. There's a lot to be said about the louder moments in this film, but then there are scenes where it gets quiet, and I think there is beauty and silence in this film. Some of the best scenes in this movie really are in the quieter moments. Like, one of my personal favorites really was when Riz Ahmed would take one of the local kids from the school that he's going and volunteering his time at, and yes, those students either are deaf, blind, or do have another disability, and in this case, Riz Ahmed takes one of the students to the park, and he's banging on this steel slide, and the boy puts his ear to the slide to hear for Riz Ahmed. He's tapping a beat, and he can kind of like, I guess, hear it in his head in a way, but then the boy puts his head to the slide, and I thought, man, this is just a beautiful representation of why this movie works so well, because these little moments just stuck with me the most. Now, when it comes to negatives in Sound of Metal, there's really only one thing that I didn't like about the film, and that's the final half of the movie, where scenes unfortunately tend to drag. While I can appreciate scenes that aren't turned up to 11, sometimes there is a lack of direction. During those moments, I almost felt like they needed to move on to the next phase of Ruben's life a little bit quicker. Now, when the movie does finally give us the payoff of what it was building up to in terms of the story, it ends rather quickly, but I really do wish that we would have focused a little bit more on Ruben's life post-rehab. I get that the ending is supposed to be a little ambiguous, which I like, but I just wish we would have got even a little bit more time with Ruben after he leaves this deaf community. It would have been really interesting to see, but overall, you guys, I love Sound of Metal. It is one of my favorite movies of the year. Currently, it sits in my top 10 for 2020, and it features Riz Ahmed and Olivia Cooke in electrifying roles. I even like Paul Raci, like I said. All of them are just so darn good together, and what they do best is really just buy you into the story, which is very well written. This is one of the more unique movies of 2020, and honestly, when you do find time to watch this film, I highly recommend it, and you might want to bring a Kleenex box because there are some really emotional moments here, guys, that got me really close to tears. So yes, Sound of Metal is really like an A-, that 4.5 out of 5-star range for me. I love this movie again, and I cannot wait to rewatch it on Amazon Prime Video. So guys, there you have it. That's my real review of Sound of Metal, but I want to know what you guys have to say about the film when you see it. So go ahead and get loud in the comments. Are you excited for this movie? Have you seen it already? And if you have, do you agree that it's excellent? If not, we'll have a conversation about that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel and tap on the bell so you don't miss out on anything new. I got some more Legend of Korra reactions. We're diving into The Mandalorian this Friday, and I got some more reviews. Kind of like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion coming up. That's going to be a good one. Alrighty, you guys. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.